What's up, nation? How's it going? What's your best memory as a Raiders fan? For me personally, I think of when I've been working here at the Raiders Report. I think about the Derek Carr touchdown to send the Raiders into the playoffs up against the Chargers. I think of the Devontae Adams trade. Heck, I think of when the Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. I can remember the very first time I was in Oakland and Josh Jacobs scored a touchdown against the Broncos. Let me know down below what's your best memory as a Raiders fan. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and I'm doing a little bit of a different style of show today because I'm a big where there's smoke, there's fire, reading the tea leaves, connecting the dots, and trying to paint a bigger picture. Well, there's been a few things that have been happening around the NFL that I feel like I haven't done a good job of covering, but when you really look at some of the things that I'm going to discuss here on today's show, you're going to sit here and go, wow, that's really great news to start off my Monday, because the situation going on right now around the NFL and with a potential 18-game schedule really helps out Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco in this current situation that the Raiders are in. So let me paint this picture for you. The NFL Players Association has engaged in high-level discussions with the NFL about potential implementation of an 18-game regular season. The NFLPA's executive director said, the reason why this is important is because at the end of the day, if the NFL wants to do something, they're probably going to do it. You just need one guy to really sign off on it, maybe two. You need, obviously, the NFLPA, but you also need Roger Goodell, which we got both of those things here. This is what Lloyd Howell said on adding an 18th game. We have talked at a very high level superficially with a recognition about, this is something that we should be talking about, and we should really kick the tires and understand what else goes into that decision-making process. So, you got to look at the tea leaves a little bit on adding the 18th game. Roger Goodell has already openly campaigned for a game 18. And, I've covered the NFL long enough here at Chat Sports. Y'all have probably watched the NFL long enough where if Roger Goodell wants to do something, he's probably going to figure out a way to make that happen. Now, you got to look at the date here. You got to go back in time a little bit. But when you really follow along the sequence of when we just started hearing of the possibility of an 18-game schedule, and now just seeing where we are now, think about it. The new kickoff return rules. They did that in one offseason. Why? Because they wanted to do it. And at the end of the day, when they want to do something, they're going to do it. Joe Burrow, he's already talking about it. The fact that the highest level of NFL players, somebody like a Joe Burrow, and he reveals a simple, perfect 18-game NFL schedule solution, which funny enough, has actually been something that Jeremy Chuggs and I have talked about on the show, where if it was up to me, every team in the NFL would get 2 bye weeks, and one of those bye weeks, maybe it's kind of like the way that the NBA, the MLB does their All-Star game, and instead of doing the Pro Bowl at the end of the season, you do it right in the middle of the year. Everybody gets a week off. That way, when that final stretch for playoff games are about to happen, final stretch for December is about to happen, you have a lot of rested-up players. I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. Also, back here to Lloyd Howell, the simple fact of the matter is, when you have a growing enterprise and there are opportunities within that intervening period of time when progress could be made and you could tweak the existing CBA legal document, why would you want to do that? I call it bargaining. I call it amendments. I call it updates of what is now a living document called a CBA. Yeah, I want to be able to have our membership in a position to jump on it when we can, not wait until their playing days are done, and it's like you get through the cycle all over again. So I know some of y'all are probably sitting there going, all right, Mitch, I saw the video. You said there's going to be some good news, so why is this good news for the Raiders? Well, coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you exactly why, and I got 5 reasons, and I'll just spoil it. I got a bonus reason of why I do think at the very end, especially right now with Antonio Pierce, Tom Telesco, this is good news for the Raiders. The first reason is you're going to have extra money to spend. Now, some people might look at that and go, well, Mitch, the Raiders already have $34.5 million in salary cap space. They haven't spent anything this offseason. We're 6th most in the NFL, and everybody's going to get this extra money. You're right, but you also got to think about it like this. More games equals more money. Which team in the NFL makes the most money off ticket prices? The Las Vegas Raiders. And, yeah, it's a little bit of money, but, hey, it's a little bit of extra money out there for somebody like Mark Davis that's also going to result in a bigger salary cap. And when you look at all of the ins and outs that the Raiders have this offseason, all the players that they got to spend, on, like extensions, and we'll get into all of it, but that extra money means a bigger salary cap, which is very important for the Raiders this offseason. It's also important to note that when the NFL expanded to 17 games, this extra paycheck, but the paycheck didn't count towards team salary cap. So, like, here's another example of this extra money. Maybe it helps out the Raiders, but when you also have somebody like Tom Delaney, who I think is one of the best in the biz of being able to manipulate contracts to do exactly what you want them to do, this is a really good situation for the Raiders. So, in short, 18 games equals more revenue, equals more salary cap increase, which is good for the Raiders where they are currently at as I am making this video on August 5th, because the Raiders have a lot of big decisions coming up here for this franchise, and they need money to do it. And if you're willing to put some chips on the table, push them in the middle, and go a little bit all in, what my plan here might be a little bit risky. But I think with Tom Delaney, with the staff that we have, we can execute it properly. Now, I am about to get into some more reasons here of why it's really good for the silver and black, but I got to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Game Time. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Views from your seat. If you haven't already, please go get started with our awesome sponsor, Game Time. You could download the Game Time app. I love using them. Recently, Jugs and I went to a home run derby, which I actually have never been to before, and it was a really cool experience. I also did this over last year where I bought tickets for Alex's dad for his birthday present. That was a lot of fun. If anybody out there hasn't already downloaded the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I'm somebody that when I look at a price on a ticketing app, when I go to check out, that's what I expect to spend, right? And one of my biggest pet peeves, a lot of other ticketing apps out there, is you go to the checkout lane and you're like, all right, I'm going to spend $50 on this ticket. Maybe for a Raiders game, it's a little bit more. But, like, you know, the Vikings preseason game, I literally did it over the weekend where it was, I saw $12 I can get a ticket. When I went to go cash out on another ticket app, that went all the way up to like $26. When I was on Game Time, I saw it at 12, and when I left, it was at 12. Like, that's a nice feeling. Imagine going to the grocery store. Imagine buying anything, and you go to the cash out lane, and you're like, wait a minute, you said it was $10, and now all of a sudden it's 20. It's not going to happen with Game Time. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. I trust Game Time. Chugs trusts Game Time. So if you trust us, you should trust Game Time. All right, let's go to the next reason here. The Raiders, you got plenty of possible extensions. And, you know, this has been a channel that we've talked about adding free agents. We've talked about really trying to keep this group together. I'm somebody that believes that the more and more time you give players with Antonio Pierce, more time that you give somebody with Patrick Graham, that defense, we have a really good group of young defensive players that, believe it or not, I'd like to try to figure out a way to keep them. As long as Max Crosby is under contract, as long as Devontae Adams is under contract, this team is going to be trying to win football games. But there's a lot of talent that you're looking at on that screen. Malcolm Kuntz, Robert Spillane, Nate Hobbs, Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps, Divine Diablo. All of those players, maybe outside of Divine, I can make a video about right now. I can make an argument of 5 reasons why I'm giving all those players a contract extension. But if you don't have that money right now, the Raiders do, then it makes it a little bit more difficult. But if you're Tom Telesco, I look at Tom Delaney and I go, I expect that at some point, and maybe it's next year, we go to 18 games. Maybe at some point we are going to have that extra salary cap space. So you spend some of that extra money now betting on the fact that Roger Goodell already wants to make it happen. So I think he's going to try to figure out a way to make it happen. Another reason that I want you all to be able to just pay attention with us and rock with us here on the Raiders Report is I'm a competitive person. And as soon as this week started, I counted Sunday because I'm almost like back into game day vibes. I want to battle our Vikings Now host, and we're going up against the Vikings. It's the first preseason game. It's going to be on Saturday. I want us to get more subscribers than they do. Why? If we're going to be battling on the field, I want to battle here at Chat Sports. The Raiders Report is number 2 in the power rankings. I want to get back up to number 1. So if you bleed silver and black, and if you want to help me take down Vikings Now to reclaim our crown, hit that subscribe button to turn on those notifications, and make sure you're joining Jeremy Chugs and I when we go live on Saturday. We're going to have over 100,000 people rocking here on this channel. We're going to party Oakland style. Let's go to the next reason here. Lots of 2025 free agents. If the Raiders want to keep some of these young players and if they want to keep this group together, you got to be able to use some of this extra money that you're going to potentially get And again, I am predicting that the Raiders are going to have more money, higher salary cap, extra game, more money. So spend the money now, Delaney. Spend the money now. The Raiders have 42 free agents in 2025. That is out of the 91 players that are on their current roster right now. One of those players is David Ago, the International Pathway Program player. So if you want to technically look at it, 41 free agents out of 90 players. Of the 42, I went through and I looked at all of them. I have 20 of them making the 53-man roster. So that's me telling y'all that 20 of the players that I think that make that 53 aren't going to be on the team next season. 16 unrestricted free agents. These are the bigger name free agents out there. 9 restricted free agents, and then 17 exclusive rights. The numbers that you should really look at there, though, are 16. That's 16 potential players that are going to make an impact this year for the Raiders that are realistically going to hit the open market. So if you want to already get ahead of the idea of, well, how can we pay players now? You pay players now with the hope of the salary cap goes up, the 18-game schedule goes up, so that way you're not in a situation at the end of the year where you're scrambling. You're going, I have all these players to re-sign. I have all these contract extensions. I don't want to lose all these guys. This is me making a video today saying bet on the fact that Goodell wants something, and I think that it's going to happen either next year or it could be even in 2026. I wanted to make it happen, though. The next thing, and maybe this is the biggest one, and this also is like where there's smoke, there's fire. The Raiders, I mean, like, let's keep it a buck here. If the Raiders don't make the playoffs, you got to look at all situations. If Aiden plays good, if Gardner plays good, but we don't make the playoffs, you got to keep everything on the table, which is potentially paying a quarterback. And, you know, I know that Aiden really struggled over the weekend. Gardner definitely took that step forward. And, you know, I think if the season were to start today, Gardner Minshew would be the starting quarterback just based off of him taking that step forward over the past few days. But then again, like, the Raiders, with the situation they're in, with all the extensions, with all the free agents, with some of the contract restructures we'll talk about here in a minute, do they have the money? Like, do they have the flexibility to go out there and pay a quarterback like a Dak Prescott over $60 million? I think that they do if they wanted to be able to do it. Now, I know Dak is a very controversial player, but, like, you also got to be able to face the fact you add Dak Prescott to the Raiders, you're an instant, like, one of the best teams in the regular season. Would you be one of the best teams in the playoffs? That still is, you know, yet to be seen. But when you think about the salary cap increase, when you think about the rumors of a potential, you know, quarterback-only salary cap, I don't think that we're that far away from being able to do all those things. So if I'm the Raiders, I'm looking at the rumors of the 18 game, the rumors of the salary cap for QBs, and I'm spending my extra money now on those extensions, on trying to figure out a way to get those free agents back, and then getting ready for next season and having all this extra projected money. Be aggressive right now, Delaney. I don't know if you guys have got that message yet. I got one more reason coming up here in just a moment, but if you don't know, Jeremy Chuggs and I, we are going to be partying in North Carolina on September 7th and on September 8th. With the North Carolina Raider fans. I'm super excited. Daryl, my guy, he's one of the head honchos out there for the NC Raider fans group, also known as Autumn Abyss. If you want to join our free watch party, go to chatsports.com/week1. I've also been told by a ton of Raider fans, also some people from Out Raidermore are going to be there. Those links are going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. And if you want to golf, I'm terrible at golf. I don't actually know how good Chuggs is. Are you any good? I got one of these, so I don't know if that means – if I get one of these in golf, I don't know if that's good. But we're going to be golfing, a lot of prizes, raffles on top of that. 20 people are going to be able to hit some balls with Chuggs and I, giggity. So chatsports.com/topgolf. It's going to be a hell of a weekend. My family's going to be in town, so hopefully you guys show out, and hopefully we show up against the Los Angeles Chargers, which, by the way, if you guys didn't see, the Justin Herbert injury happened. I didn't even plan on talking about this, but also Joey Bosa. He ended up getting injured. So the Raiders, 34 days away, 2-star players, just something to consider. Let's go to the last thing now. And this is like the biggest reason. To me, all of these rumors, all of this speculation, the 18 game, the quarterback salary cap going up, with Goodell wanting it, with some of the NFL star players, with the CBA already being on board, it allows the Raiders to be aggressive now. I am a big believer that teams that play chess and not checkers get that advantage. And with the smart people that we have in our organization, we can be aggressive now. You got $34.5 million in salary cap space. You let Tom Delaney work his magic. He is one of the best in the biz at being able to manipulate contracts to get them to do exactly what you need them to be able to do. Also, Telesco could add more talent, and he could extend those players this offseason. Like, I want Telesco to do what he said he was going to do right by some of those guys. So take care of the Malcolm Kuntz. Take care of Nate Hobbs. Take care of Trevon Merrick. Take care of Robert Spillane. But then also, you got to sit there and go, I think we're going to have some extra money next offseason. So instead of sitting around on this 34.5, go out and try to find a player like Stephon Gilmore. Maybe you want an Xavier Howard. But to me, and I know Max Crosby said it yesterday, the player that he thinks is going to jump onto the scene is going to be Ja'Cory Bennett. And damn it, I want that to be the case. But I also am sitting up here going, if we're not going to extend some of our superstars, which I would rather the Raiders do, could you also add Stephon Gilmore and give yourself the best defense in the NFL? Something to consider. I think another thing that you got to consider is a Devontae Adams contract restructure. Like, for the Silver and Black to pay somebody $44.1 million on their salary cap in 2025 and 2026, yeah, I'm saying all these things about salary cap going up, but paying a wide receiver $44.1 against your salary cap, that's something where if I'm the Raiders right now, I take some of that money that we have, I restructure Devontae's contract a little bit. That way it's not as easy potentially for him to get out of it. I know it might scare some Raiders fans, but I also want to keep Devontae here. That's something that you could do. Another contract restructure that you have to talk about, and I don't want to speculate because Colton's not really this type of dude. He's a very, very good guy, and I don't think that he's that guy. But also, there's been a lot of injury concerns around Colton Miller. He's got $0 million guaranteed on his contract, has $0 million guaranteed on next year's deal. He's the, I want to say, 17th highest paid offensive tackle in the NFL. What if he wants a new deal, and what if this is one of those reasons why he's not as quick to get out there onto the field due to that injury? Yes, he had offseason shoulder surgery. Yes, he's a captain on this team, but money also talks, and this might be one of those restructures and one of these deals that a lot of people aren't talking about. But, we need to be talking about it because he's one of the best tackles in the NFL, and he's not paid like one, and he's had some injury concerns. So that's a contract restructure to think about. So overall, in conclusion, the reason why I think that this is good news for the Raiders is because adding the 18th game, this helps us out right now. It helps us be a little bit more aggressive because you should bet on the salary cap going up. Every single NFL team should always bet on the salary cap going up. Why? It happens every year. The NFL grows and grows and grows. So when you're a team that's like the Raiders, and you know Roger Goodell wants that 18th game because you know Roger Goodell wants more money. You know the NFL wants more money. You have to be aggressive, and it has to be aggressive right now. I listened to AP, and he was on the Pivot Pivot 5 or 6 months ago. I've listened to the show before, but actually sitting down and watching it, it gave me chills. It made me honestly tear up, hear him talk about his mom. But when you hear AP's story, it sounds like he's been, the dude that's chased everything in his entire life. I want that same exact mindset, and I want it right now. And I want us to be aggressive because it goes up every year. The 18 games, the rumors of the salary cap, let's spend some of the money that we have right now because it's going to continue to happen. So my final thought is where the Raiders franchise is at right now. I actually think adding that 18th game would help us out. We need to figure out the quarterback. We have a lot of players extensions we could do. We have a lot of free agents. We have a lot of big contract restructures that we could have. So adding that 18th game with this current situation for the Raiders, I think is very good news for the Silver and Black.